And this morning, Gene Shalit begins a three-part conversation with actor-director Clint Eastwood, whose films are internationally some of the biggest moneymakers of all time.
If you had to make a choice between acting and directing, you could do only one or the other. Which would you do?
I suppose right now I'd consider, I would rather direct at this particular point.
What's the appeal for you?
Well, I think just being able to put the story down the way you see it, as opposed to being just the one component that brings the performance. But the performances can be, in movies especially, not so much in the theater, but movies, the performance can be totally altered at the mercy of the director. You can, through film editing, you can do anything. You can make a good actor look like a total imbecile, and sometimes you can improve a person's performance or tempo by film editing. So there's a lot of things you can do in the editorial process. I think possibly is one of the more exciting elements of filmmaking.
How tough is it to direct yourself, Clint?
It's not, it's tough. It takes a certain technique, but it's not the hardest thing in the world. If you know what you want to do in the performance, if you have a pretty good idea of what you're doing when you're doing it.
You're sort of two people.
Yeah,
are you easy on yourself? Do you say, okay, Clint, you can goof off a little bit here? Or do you say, listen, Clint, I'm the director, shape up?
Sometimes you have to kind of kick yourself. You get a tendency to slough. At the beginning, I had to always worry about sloughing your performance. Because sometimes you just work on the other acts, you get just everything just right, and you say, well, I don't have much time. One take, get out of here. Well, one take's all right if you're up for it, but if your mind is sort of preoccupied with the next setup, you have to be able to click that switch back and forth in your head very fast.
Do you have somebody else out there whose judgment you trust, who can tell you, hey, Clint, you didn't do that quite right? I mean, you don't have a mirror on the wall, so how do you know what you look like?
No, you just do it by feel. I know when it feels right. But I do have people around me that I trust. If something looks odd, or if the camera operator says, you know, it didn't feel kind of odd, I'll evaluate it, and if I think if he's got a valid point, I'll listen to his opinion.
You have no yes men gathered around you day and night?
They better not. They better not be. No, I don't have any yes men. If they want to say yes, that's fine. If they want to say no, that's fine too.
But you listen to other people on the set?
Sure. Oh yeah, you have to. Movies are strictly an ensemble. You might know what you want to do, but somebody else might have a good suggestion of how to get to it more directly.
Does it bother you that you've never won an Academy Award?
That doesn't bother me at all. I don't make movies with any of that kind of thing into consideration, and I've maybe been too successful for my own good.
Why do you say that?
I don't know, but it's not. That's a more social thing where performances and movies are not a social thing. They're a thing you're trying to create. It has nothing to do with awards and stuff. Fonda, Wayne, all those guys, they never got them either. They got them for their stature in life, or their age in life, or whatever, as much as anything else. It might have been On Golden Pond was a marvelous job by Henry Fonda, but if it had been the story about a young man, and he was a young man playing it, it might have been overlooked for something else.
So there's a lot of sentiment in award giving in this country?
Oh, I think so, sure. There's either that or you get on a roll with a certain group that likes that sort of thing.
Do you ever want to get back at a critic? Want to kill him or hit him or kick him?
No. I've never been mad at anything anybody said. The only time I ever get bugged at anything journalism-wise is when somebody just absolutely makes up a lie with malice at heart. If they're misinformed or don't like for some personal reason, that's great. That's their problem, their ball of wax. If they like it, I'm very flattered by it. I'm pleased that they got the interpretation I was intending. If they didn't, either I've failed or they've failed to pick up the interpretation. One of the two of us would be wrong.
How would you define success?
I define it as being happy with what you're doing. If not necessarily a monetary success, if you're doing something you really like and you figure you do it fairly decently, that would be it. And that could range from laying bricks to presidents of corporations or nations or whatever. Just satisfied with the way you're doing it, doing the best you can.
Old Rowdy Yates has come quite a ways. Tomorrow, Gene will find out why, with more money than he could ever spend, why Clint Eastwood keeps on making the movies.
Clint Eastwood is very much an international movie star, with his films racking up big bucks both at home and abroad. This morning, Gene Shalit continues his interview with a box office giant.
As far as I know, if you never worked another day in your life, you couldn't possibly spend the money you now have. So what keeps you working?
Just the challenge of new material and stuff like that. I don't know if that's the state. I won't completely agree with that statement there, because everybody can mismanage themselves if they allow themselves to do that. I hate to use the word aesthetics or the artistic nature of or whatever, but maybe the expansion of your work. Just, I think that's more important. Otherwise, what would be the interest? You have to have some interest to make you want to expand your scope a little bit. That's.
Why are you reluctant to use the word artistic or aesthetics? You think it's sissy or something?
No, I don't think it's sissy. I
think it's pretentious?
I think some people use it pretentiously, and maybe that's what I'd be afraid of falling in that category.
I have another of your old quotes. The truth is, strong men are sensitive and not afraid to show it.
I think that's true. I think a lot of times, a lot of strong men are not afraid to show sensitivity. It's because they're not complexed about anything that's holding them back from showing sensitivity. Though I've been accused of being insensitive in some of the roles, but that's because maybe that character was particularly insensitive at certain moments. But I think I've shown there's always been a point in the picture where the guard drops a little bit.
Have you ever seen yourself dubbed into a foreign language?
Yeah, I've seen myself speak fluent Italian, Spanish, German, French, Japanese.
Oh, what's a girl to do? What's a girl to do? What's a girl to do?
Ja, das war wirklich ganz ausgezeichnet. Lynn Halsey Taylor. Du kannst jederzeit hier wieder auftreten. Und jetzt werde ich wieder ein...
Bitte entschuldigen Sie, könnten Sie den eine Weile für mich aufheben?
Natürlich.
Danke.
Ich möchte natürlich nicht, Freunde.
Sie singen echt gut.
Oh, danke.
Also,
Ich würde mich freuen, wenn ich Sie auf einen Drink einladen dürfte.
Bitte. Ich hätte gern ein Bier.
2 Bier.
You're just a Coca-Cola cowboy.
Ich habe vorhin Ihren Namen nicht verstanden. Ich heiße Philo Bedon.
Lynn Halsey Taylor. Haben Sie sich mit Ihrer Freundin verkracht? Sie ist ja wie eine Rakete abgezischt.
Ach, die kannte ich knapp eine Minute.
Eine Minute? Wow. Da scheinen Sie aber einen ganz schönen Verschleiß an Frauen zu haben.
Das war ein guter Song, ist der von Ihnen?
Nein, schön wär's. Den hat mein Vater mir vorgesungen, als ich noch klein war.
Als Sie noch klein waren. Daher kenne ich Sie also. Als ich im 3. Schuljahr war, da kannte ich ein kleines Mädchen, das sah Ihnen sehr ähnlich. Mir kommen fast die Tränen.
Sie reden ein komisches Zeug.
Es ist ziemlich verräuchert hier drin. Möchten Sie vielleicht...
Ich möchte sehr gern.
Does it seem odd when you see that? Do you laugh or what?
Yeah, I always laugh. You always wonder what the guy was thinking when he was dubbing your voice in. But I have a different voice everywhere. It depends on where. A lot of places they don't dub them. In the Champs-Élysées, for instance, they'll run it in English, but when it gets out to the provinces, they just automatically dub everything.
What do you think it's going to be like to grow old, Clint?
I don't know how I'm going to handle it, but I would hope that I would handle it. I hope that I enjoy it. I think the advantage of growing old is enjoying yourself and knowing that you've had a good ride.
How would you like to be remembered?
Just as a person who, whatever he did the best he could with it. And enjoyed life, enjoyed a really good time. That's a hard one, isn't it? You have to start predicting how you'd feel then. Impossible to answer, really. Was kind, considerate to people around him.
What was it like written on a monument about you?
I told him so. Well, that's the old hypochondriac, isn't it?
I told him I was sick.
The old hypochondriac gag. I told him so. I told him so. Nothing. Not necessary to write anything. Somebody wants to remember something about it, fine.
Tomorrow we'll have the third and final part of Gene's interview with Clint Eastwood. They'll talk about his latest box office smash, Firefox.
This morning, Gene Shalit concludes his series with actor and director Clint Eastwood. His new film, Firefox, shows a notable departure from the often maligned shoot-'em-up Eastwood style.
The beginning of Firefox is very much like an espionage picture. It's all about sneaking around in Russia and making contacts with the underground and changing your character from time to time. Your identity keeps changing in the movie as you get closer and closer to the Russian secret war base.
Right. There are a lot of twists to it, but if a person doesn't give up hope, there'll be a certain amount of action will appear later on.
You like action in movies?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think movies are built for action because they have you can do the physical movement and you can take them anywhere and shoot them anywhere.
You've taken a lot of heat over your career for the action, let us say, the blood, the gunning, the so-called morality or immorality or amorality. How have you handled that?
I can take the heat. What the heck? It's the heat changes all the time. Usually, it's the heat changes more than I do. It's in the early days, people didn't. A lot of people didn't understand what I was doing. But some people, some of the people who handed out the heat now have changed their tune a little bit. It just depends on who they are. And a lot of people have grown up with me now. I guess it's because I've been hanging around for a while. A lot of people have grown up dating to the movies, and or they mean a specific thing in their life, much like a certain popular song will mean something to somebody in their life. And so it's, I guess I'm becoming an old-timer.
What's the scariest thing you ever did?
Mountain climbing.
Really?
Yeah. It's, I was training for a film I did called The Eiger Sanction.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do a lot of vertical climbing. I hadn't done much of that. And I was doing it with the inspiration of having to do the film, but a lot of people say, well, don't you want to do that now, or don't you want to continue? And a lot of climbers say, well, wouldn't you like to go out some weekend and climb El Capitan or something like that? And you go, no, I think I'll just forget that one.
Is there a skill or a talent that you don't have that you wish you had?
I think I've always liked to be a musician. I've always liked that because you perform without having to use, unlike an actor where you have to use your body and your face and your whole physical being as the instrument. A musician doesn't have to worry about all that. It's what he transmits through the instrument, whether it's trumpet, trombone, etc.
If someone were going to see one Clint Eastwood movie and were going to judge your entire career on that movie, or two movies, what would you like that person to see?
If it was two movies, I would say it could be I couldn't say on one movie. I don't know. I never conceived my films totally as the audience outside. I suppose this one would be an interesting one, and maybe Bronco Billy, which would be the other end of the spectrum, or the Outlaw Josie Wales one.
Play Misty for Me was the first movie you directed.
Uh-huh.
Was it easy to get that assignment?
I went to the studio and said I wouldn't mind doing this. I had a deal with the studio at a certain fee, and they said, fine. I said I wanted to direct it, and they said, fine. I thought, boy, this is going well. And they said, by the way, the fee that you normally get, we'd like you just to waive that. In other words, you can just do it for nothing. And I said, oh, well, that seems fair. So instead they just we just did a straight percentage of the film, which was good for them. That protected them in case I went crazy and went over, but which I didn't. And then if the film does well, I do well, and if it doesn't do well, I don't do anything. But that's the arrangement we made with them, and we've continued that type of arrangement over the years.
You think you could ever play another Dirty Harry movie?
It's very, very hard to find material for any story, much less to design it for a specific character. And that first one was so well designed within the story that Harry Julian Fink wrote that it was very easy to get with. I need some sort of inspiration. If I was ever going to do that again, I'd need some inspiration. That inspiration would be just a fabulous script with a whole different expansion on the character. Because right now, there's nothing more I can do with him than what I've done. I could repeat it myself and go ahead and do it in a film, and maybe it would be successful, but being successful, I need more of an inspiration than that.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch The Today Show every morning on NBC, or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.